Hey, what's up everyone? Tetrick85 here, and today I'm going to be talking about Alien 3 for the NES. This game was made by LJN, which you're probably thinking right away, oh boy, this is going to be a suckfest like you won't believe. I know this game hasn't gotten very many good reviews, but come on guys, this game is not that bad, especially if you compare it to the movie, which I thought was atrocious, and I'm a huge fan of the Alien movies. Just thinking about that movie has my blood pressure going up. God, I hate that movie. But honestly, I don't think this game is as bad as what people make it out to be. Sure, it has its flaws, but I think it's decent. I actually think this is better than Predator for the NES. The first thing I'm going to talk about is this game's graphics. Ripley looks a lot like she did in the movie. At least they got the color of her clothing correct, unlike what Activision did with Arnold Schwarzenegger in Predator. I also have to give LJN some serious props for the designs of the aliens. The eggs, facehuggers, and warrior xenomorphs look much like they do in the movies. The only thing is, in the movie there was only one adult alien, but in this game there are many, which I can live with considering the game will be a lot more boring if you only face one alien the entire game. The design of the game's HUD is decent too. It shows you what kind of weapon you're using, the number of prisoners you need to find, the time you have left, your health meter, and also a motion tracker much like in the movie Aliens. I have to admit, some of the settings in this game look kinda off to me. This is supposed to take place at Fury 161, which in the first few levels of the game it looks like it did in the movie. However, later on in the game you'll see some hive webbing like in the second film, as well as a place with a waterfall in the background. Is it just me, or does this place look vaguely like the first part of the Bubble Man stage in Mega Man 2, or even the third world in Super Mario Bros. 2? If you didn't already know this was supposed to be Fury 161 from the movie, would you honestly think this was at a penal colony? One of this game's biggest flaws is in its controls. When you move Ripley, she goes quicker than what you'd expect, much like Dutch did in Predator. This is also another game where the A and B buttons are opposite of what some people are used to. A is to shoot your gun and B is to jump. As a fan of the Mario games, I'm so used to pushing A to jump, but I end up wasting bullets thinking that's what I press to jump instead of to shoot. There are a variety of weapons in the game, including a pulse rifle, flamethrower, grenade launcher, and hand grenades, which you can switch in between them by pushing the select button. Some of the jumps in this game can be a real nightmare, and if you're not used to how Ripley jumps and moves as you play, you're going to have a rough time advancing through a level. Speaking of the levels in this game, they are all pretty much the same, which is another flaw in this game. The object of each level is to free a certain number of prisoners before time runs out. This sounds pretty easy, except for the fact that each level is a maze, filled with dead ends, enemy ambushes, and detours that will have you run around in circles. The best advice I can give you is to draw a map for each level. That way you know where the prisoners and any health upgrades or weapons and or ammo are. After every couple of levels you face a level guardian, which is actually just a bigger version of the alien warriors. Actually, I think this might be a Praetorian alien, but considering this game was made before that stage of the xenomorph life cycle began being used regularly, I highly doubt this. Even though this game is relatively short, it is rather tough. The aliens here can be ruthless, and by that I mean the warriors. Even though they mostly just run back and forth, you can still get caught off guard by one because of how fast they move. They can also hang on the ceiling and ambush you that way, so make sure you keep your eyes peeled for them. This is easier said than done, because the aliens' dark coloring make them pretty difficult to see, especially in some levels of the game where the background is very dark. One thing about this game which I find interesting is the AI of the facehuggers. Sometimes they will attack you and attach onto you without much effort, and sometimes it is nearly impossible to get facehugged by one. Personally, it's a 50-50 scenario for me. More often than not, it's not difficult for one to get on me. If you do get one on you, press left and right repeatedly until it comes off, which I should say they are pretty difficult to remove. Now I have a legitimate question to ask. If Ripley already has a queen embryo in her, why on earth is a facehugger attacking her? The good thing is that only see them in the first 2 levels in the game, which makes sense considering you only see one within the first 5 minutes of the film. Finding the prisoners can be a chore too, so unless you draw a map of the level or look at a walkthrough online, you're going to have trouble finding all of them. What's worse is that the game doesn't give you a lot of time to look for them. So between running out of time and getting killed by xenomorphs, you're most likely going to lose some lives playing this game. If you fail to rescue all the prisoners before time runs out, you'll see them giving birth to chestbursters. Which has me thinking, even if Ripley rescues them, won't they still give birth to them, thus spreading the alien menace even further? You start the game with 3 lives, though you can change this at the game's title screen under the Configure option. The life meter looks pretty small on the bottom of the screen, but Ripley can take a fair amount of damage before she can be killed. The good thing is that you can find first aid kits throughout the game that can replenish your health. Oh, and you get no continues, so you gotta make sure you make your 3 lives count, because you won't get any more. If you do lose all of your lives, you are treated to one screen that says Game Over in a hand, which I assume is Ripley's, reaching out towards the light. I have to admit that when I played this game as a kid, it scared me a little bit, and I think it was because of the music in this game. Say what you will about LJN, but they know how to put some decent music in their games. For example, here's the title screen music. Am I the only one that thinks that music is creepy? Even some of the in-game music can leave one feeling unsettled. Here's the music to the game's first level. Even though it may seem like I'm bashing the game's music for being a bit eerie, I actually think it's pretty good. My favorite piece of music from this game is at level 7 and 8. Here, listen. Oh, and this is another game where the music continues to play even when you pause it, which, like in my Predator review, I don't mind this at all. If you manage to beat this game, you are treated to an ending that will leave you scratching your head. Apparently, Ripley is not infected with an alien after all, and she just waltzes out of Fury 161, which would explain why a facehugger is able to attack her. Maybe the people of LJN didn't like this movie very much either and didn't even bother watching the ending. Despite this deviation from the source material, I don't think it's enough to completely destroy this game. If anything, it may give someone a sense of satisfaction once they see this ending. Though I think LJN could have done a better job with this game, I can't say that it's bad by any means. This was a game that I used to rent several times at my local video store, and it was a game that I enjoyed playing for an entire weekend. If you're a fan of the Alien movies and want to play anything based on them, I'd recommend playing it, and who knows, you might have fun doing so. But if you're not a fan of the films, or if you're a diehard fan of the third movie, which why you would like that movie to begin with is beyond me, then you'd probably want to skip it. This is Tedrick85 speaking. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.